One of my favorite things about the earlier days of the internet was the ambiguity. Because it was so new, decentralized, way less regulated, everyone just kind of did their own thing and didn't really think of the consequences, for better or for worse. It really was, in a lot of ways, an online free-for-all. Is this a real ghost caught on camera? Or is it a screamer? It's a screamer. There just wasn't a precedent of similar events to look to when something peculiar happened. So what you're left with is a lot of uncertainty between what's real and what's fake. And when YouTube first emerged, we got to experience that in a whole other medium, video. But when that content is lost to time and the only relics that remain are our own recollections, you are left with something called an urban legend. A story with no evidence to confirm or deny it that is still widely regarded as being true. Because these stories are often unfalsifiable, people really don't know what to think of their legitimacy, and that can be quite unnerving. What is commonly regarded as the first urban legend to ever form on YouTube to achieve mainstream success would appear in 2008, known as Username666. According to legend, if you went on to youtube.com back in 2007, 2008, and typed in youtube.com/666, you would be greeted with a prompt saying that the account has been suspended. But if you continue to refresh the page long enough, you'll notice things slowly start to get weird. Now your YouTube homepage is completely stripped of any personality and is instead accompanied with 3 sixes replacing the thumbnails. As you continue refreshing, the background changes color, things get much darker, more unsettling. You are eventually redirected to a new page entirely. You are met with a series of hellish, very grotesque images, where you have now crossed the internet Rubicon. Disturbing videos play that can't be paused. You cannot exit your browser. You can't leave YouTube. The text on the page and even in your browser is either heavily distorted or replaced with a long series of Ds, presumably for devil. The more you try to leave, the more aggressive things get. Not even Task Manager can save you, nor can the computer's own shutdown menu. You are stuck with no way out, until it just destroys your computer altogether. This entire story came from a video that was uploaded in early 2008, and word quickly started getting around about this dangerous computer virus supposedly infecting YouTube. A worm that, according to legend, had a supernatural element to it, as it did not just transfer by machine, but through the souls of anyone unlucky enough to come across it, as many users claim to experience problems even after buying a new computer. The page would immediately get taken down, never to be heard from, or even mentioned by YouTube ever again. Even several years later, people are still talking about this strange event in YouTube history, inspiring creepypasta stories, fanfiction, alleged first-hand experiences that, with the passage of time, has cemented Username666 into this aura of mystery that is still leaving YouTube users, both new and old, scratching their heads today. Which finally begs this long, unanswered question. Was this real? No, it wasn't. I mean, this was a long time ago, so there isn't really a way to test it out now, but I do remember at the time trying this out more than once, and no, nothing happened. So you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But in spite of that, what is peculiar is that this legend is sort of true, but not in the way that you might think. Regardless of the veracity of a lot of these claims, I find the story of Username666 incredibly fascinating. There's just something about it that makes it stand out so much more than other internet legends of the time, and I think that has a lot to do with how much it indirectly shaped interactive storytelling, not just on YouTube, but the internet as a whole. And I came to this conclusion through the deep dives that I took trying to find the origins of this story. And today, I would like to take you on that journey with me. This is the old tale of Username666, YouTube's first urban legend. Uh-oh, has this ever happened to you? Well, thankfully now you don't have to think about it as much, thanks to Factor 75. The product's so good it was sponsored twice in a row. Now in this day and age, life can get busy. Sometimes you don't even have time to cook and instead resort to spending money on takeout and junk food. But Factor 75 offers a cheap way to not only eat nutritious, but also delicious. Just take the meal of your choice and put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. Heat, eat, and enjoy. Factor meals are also never frozen. Everything is pre-made with fresh ingredients so that you can get the full flavor in every bite. Factor also sent me these smoothies, and wow, I am in love. These were strawberry banana and mango, and I would actually get excited on the way home so that I could have one before bed. It is the perfect way for me to settle my sweet tooth without going a little overboard, since I tend to do that sometimes. Factor also offers very diverse options that cater to many diets, including vegetarian and vegan options. My vegetarian tamale bowl was amazing. 10 out of 10. Factor, keep them coming. And now you too can enjoy these delicious meals at a discount. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use the code NATIONSQUID50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Now, obviously me telling you from my personal experience that this legend is fake is just not enough. At the end of the day, this is the internet, and my word is no stronger than a random YouTube commenter in 2008 claiming, "Oh no, it's real, it happened to me, guys." You need solid, concrete evidence to back up that claim. And that's exactly what I spent maybe a little too much time looking for. Now, the biggest strength to these types of stories, or really just any urban legend in general, is that they are, like I said, unfalsifiable. This means that they, by design, cannot be proven or disproven because the evidence is either manipulated to appear that way, or it's just non-existent altogether. Think of the thought experiment Russell's teapot as an example. The idea that an invisible teapot is currently orbiting the sun. The reason you can't see it is that it cannot be detected by current technology. Obviously, such a claim sounds ridiculous, but because, by design, you cannot detect this teapot, it technically could very well be true. It is an unfalsifiable claim. Russell's teapot is often used to argue the existence of God, but today we are going to use it to argue the existence of Satan. That sounded so much better on paper than it does out loud. Anyway, the point is, the burden of proof is always on the person making those claims. But a lot of the time, they just don't do that. This leaves the observer no other choice but to come to their own conclusions about them. And quite often, suspension of disbelief takes over, because that's always the more interesting route. And now you have an urban legend. Not only does it give your brain that benefit of the doubt that something very sinister could be true and therefore more intriguing, but it also turns into a bit of a game for the skeptic who is trying to find out the truth, attaching this interactive element to it. Everybody wins. It really is a beautiful approach to storytelling when done the right way, and Username666 really is a great example of that. It checks all those boxes. When looking at it superficially, this story's alibis are airtight, whether that was intentional or not. Whenever I found something that I thought was a huge lead, I would just end up at a dead end. But after digging long enough, I think I finally cracked it. So first, let's answer the question. Where did Username666 start? Well, it all started on a YouTube channel called Nana825763, also known as PiroPito, on December 28, 2007. But the story initially wasn't just about YouTube. In this now long-deleted YouTube video, PiroPito features the website Nico, showcasing that users who typed SM666 into the URL will soon be consumed by this dreadful digital hell. Eventually, they too succumb to its destruction. The video would receive moderate success on the channel, and then on February 26, 2008, the channel uploaded another video also featuring this strange phenomenon, this time on our beloved YouTube.com. And this video would blow up and become the one everyone remembers, due to the fact that very little acknowledgement of the video was ever made from the user who uploaded it and other perfectly timed circumstances. People in the comments just came to their own conclusions about the video, came up with their own theories, etc. And that's when internet history was made. What makes this story appear so convincing is that when users at the time typed in youtube.com/666 into their URLs, they were in fact greeted with a message claiming that the account was suspended. This is even confirmed by snapshots on the Wayback Machine. To an everyday person who has no context of the story, this looks like a legitimate pathway that has since been blocked off, with the reason being unknown. Not to mention, there was also allegedly a post from a message board and even the YouTube community forums dating back to 2007 claiming that this page was real and caused them harm. So, case closed, right? Username666 really was a possessed YouTube channel terrorizing the site. Well, let's take a step back for a minute. When I first saw these screenshots, I initially thought I was wrong and that this was indeed some kind of creative malware that YouTube quickly nibbed in the bud, and by the time I went to test it out, it was just too late. But as I looked deeper into these screenshots, I noticed some things that were a bit off. Although this is a bit small and somewhat subjective, some of the vernacular used in these posts seemed out of place. For example, the term video essay was not really a thing on YouTube back in 2007, at least not in the way that we understand it now. In fact, video essays are a relatively new medium of entertainment on the site. In 2007, you had, well, shoes. Though I do like this user's response, calling YouTube that poor excuse of a video site, and encouraging people to stop using it. It's giving Billy Zane from Titanic the, Picasso, you'll never make it. Completely unrelated, just thought that was funny. Anyway, same goes for words like shitpost. Wasn't really a word back in 2007, at least not a popular one. But keep in mind, you can also find the word awesome in the Bible, so this isn't much of a smoking gun. So I started looking at the YouTube channel screenshot attached. Unfortunately, this is the highest quality image of it I could find, but from what I can see, there are some quick giveaways. This is not how YouTube channels looked back in 2007. Instead, this is the YouTube channel layout from 2008-2009. If you look at the top of the image, you'll see the Home Channels Community Videos tab. In 2007, these tabs did not look like that. You also had extra tabs such as Categories and Upload. Additionally, the subscribe button was a different color and channels had roles under their profiles. The image used for the video appears to be a doctored version of this image. Also, this version of the playback system would not appear until 2008. In 2007, YouTube's playback system looked like this. I also noticed other things like format changes and the reply being 2 days older than the initial post. As for the help post, well, the community help forums wouldn't launch until July of 2008. So with my findings, I'm going to conclude that these screenshots are not legitimate and therefore not part of the Username666 lore. Very cleverly done, like it certainly had me fooled. This is what I mean, these are like a game. It quite literally sucks you in. But unfortunately, they are not real, and therefore left me back at square one. But who's to say that Username666 didn't still exist back in 2007 as a harmful, virus-ridden YouTube channel whose artifacts have been lost to time, like the Goggle Worm or the You Are an Idiot Trojan? Well, with these screenshots being fake, that means that unfortunately, pretty much no surviving records or primary sources of Username666 exist prior to PiroPito's video. So the only thing we can do is dissect the video itself. So the first thing we need to do is figure out when this channel first surfaced, and the only way we can do that is by determining when this video was recorded. Now, you never see the clock feature or any kind of calendar widget on this computer, something to give away the date. But still, I thought this was going to be an easy quest. I mean, all I would have to do is see the videos that come up on the homepage, look them up, and see when they were uploaded. But I can't even do that, because you never see the titles of these videos, only their thumbnails. Now this is what I mean by airtight alibis. Had PiroPito screen captured just a few more inches down, this mystery likely would have been solved right away. But of course, that didn't stop me, because that's life. You work with what you have, and I still had these thumbnails. I noticed that one of these thumbnails appeared to be some kind of news footage that included a date from December of 2007. So we can say with good certainty that PiroPito's video was not recorded until on or after December 19th, 2007. But I wanted to narrow things down even further. So I decided to individually screenshot the thumbnails that come up every time PiroPito refreshes the page and conduct a reverse image search. After hours of doing this, all of these were unsuccessful at tracing back to a YouTube video, except for one. I was able to find a video with a matching thumbnail and matching timestamp, dated February 12th, 2008, exactly 2 weeks before PiroPito's video was uploaded. So we can now say, beyond a reasonable doubt, that this video, the earliest record of Username666's existence, was not recorded in 2007, but instead in a roughly 2-week window between February 12th and February 26th, 2008. Now, why is this important? Well, I decided to use the internet's favorite YouTube search tool, Hadsy, to look at the very first comments ever posted on this video. And sure enough, a significant amount of them pointed out that this is indeed fake. And the comments on this channel that are claiming it was real got downvoted pretty quickly, back when YouTube's downvote button actually worked. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, sure, this is the earliest surviving evidence, and we're now certain that this video was recorded in 2008. But that does not mean that Username666 did not exist prior. In fact, there is an entire 2-week window where 666 could have existed before it would have possibly been taken down and therefore had all the comments show up saying that it's fake. How do we know this isn't the case? Well, we technically don't, but a little bit of Occam's razor makes things quite clear. There are 2 possibilities. One, Username666 was real. It was a strange computer malware that was circulating the internet, eventually contaminating YouTube, orchestrated by an unknown perpetrator. Only one person was brave enough to screen record it, and YouTube just so happened to take it down at the same time this video was uploaded. And this just so happens to be the earliest record of the page. Or 2, it was just an art project. Now, if that were true, then how do you explain the suspension prompt that came up when people search for the channel? I mean, this is in fact real. It is confirmed by the Wayback Machine. So we do know at some point 666 was an account that for some reason got suspended. YouTube must be hiding something, right? This is one of the more eerie parts of the story, because there literally is no record of this page on the Wayback Machine prior to its suspension, leaving us with uncertainty and only the legend to rely on. But we do know it has been suspended for a very long time, the earliest snapshot dating as far back as mid-2009. My initial theory was that YouTube just, by default, banned any channels with names that they deemed inappropriate, curse words, vulgar language, etc. And if you weren't already familiar, the number 666 is considered very offensive in Christianity. So I assume that YouTube put this on their list of banned words just as some sort of precaution and had those names banned by default. But then after some digging in these archives, I came across many channels with some very offensive usernames, which don't need to be repeated here. So the likelihood of those channels existing while the name 666 was blocked just doesn't seem likely to me. Which brings me to my next theory, that 666 was indeed a real YouTube channel, but it wasn't cursed or had any malware attached to it. Instead, it was just like any other channel with an edgy username, and was perhaps banned due to some technicality or terms of service violation. But this had occurred before the legend surfaced, so no one was interested enough to preserve a record of its existence prior. Perhaps it was a pet project made by PiroPito himself. If you look at his past work on his channel, it is very similar in tone and style to the Username666 video, mostly consisting of avant-garde, surreal, and grotesque yet slightly humorous content. In fact, PiroPito said himself that the Nico Nico video was submitted to a film festival before being uploaded to YouTube. And I think that claim alone is the smoking gun for finally confirming that Username666 was indeed a fake. Until it wasn't. There was a period in around July of 2022 where Username666 was real. If you typed in youtube.com/666, you would in fact be directed to a scary video uploaded by a near-identical modern recreation of the channel. But it didn't just stop there. Any user who removed the letter H from a YouTube video URL would also be taken to it. This situation would soon be covered by multiple popular channels across YouTube and even reach the news. What is going on here? Did YouTube just get hacked? No, actually, not at all. The explanation is actually very simple. All it did was take advantage of a YouTube feature that brought to light a very subtle exploit that remained undiscovered pretty much since the site started. When you watch a YouTube video, the term watch acts as the query in the URL, basically telling YouTube, hey, this is a video page. This question mark divides this query and the ID for a specific YouTube video. This ID is called the query string. Every YouTube ID is unique. So this is telling YouTube, hey, this is a video page and it is for this video specifically. But if you replace the word watch with literally anything, everything after this question mark becomes completely irrelevant. So if you take any video URL and replace watch with a YouTube channel name, it is the same thing as typing in youtube.com/that channel name, and it will take you to that channel. Try it with NationSquid. It will take you to my channel. This is why you cannot have a channel with the handle watch, as it would conflict with these parameters. But a YouTube channel with the name Watka? No problem at all. At the time, YouTube had a channel redirect feature where if anyone went on your channel, it would redirect them to any other YouTube URL of your choosing, and that includes video URLs. So someone decided to take both the names 666 and Watka and have them redirect to this video uploaded by another channel. So now, anybody who removed the H from their video URL and typed in youtube.com/666 would be taken to this video. YouTube quickly caught on to this, and now this channel redirect feature no longer exists. And this entire incident is most likely the reason why. But for a brief moment, the legend of Username666 had been manifested. Nowadays, a story like Username666 probably wouldn't fool anybody. But at the time, it was quite convincing for a lot of people. But why? Were people just more gullible back then? Although the internet had already been in the mainstream eye for more than 10 years by the time Username666 was uploaded, it was still quite in its cultural infancy. There was still a lot that we didn't know about the internet in 2008. It was very much still establishing its roots, and not only were people unaware of what it was going to turn into, there weren't a whole lot of past examples people could refer to when it came to using better judgment or just everyday decision-making. And this included the concept of online video, which just did not have the same impact on the internet as it did when YouTube came along, which emphasized its role in full force. This means that the idea of videos on the internet was still new for a lot of people, and YouTube may have even been their first experiences with it. So people both didn't know what to expect from it, or even what its capabilities were. It's really not all that different to the stories we hear about from when movies were first invented. When the film The Arrival of the Mail Train came out in 1895, there were reports of viewers running out of the movie theater, panicking, because they thought the train was going to crash into them. This is a completely silly idea nowadays, but keep in mind, these people never saw a motion picture before. They just did not know what it was capable of. The exact same thing could be said about people discovering YouTube for the first time in 2008, just astonished at the idea that you can now easily watch any video you want online just by searching for it. And then they come across a video talking about a cursed YouTube channel that will supposedly destroy your computer. Or they come across a video of an alleged ghost sighting or cryptids. And just like in days of old, they too do not know the bounds of this new technology. This suspension of disbelief was further reinforced by the fact that editing resources were still very selective at the time. Programs like Adobe Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, etc. can be found on just about any computer at your local coffee shop or even a public school. This is because computers have gotten so much more powerful for a much cheaper price over the past several years, making them way more accessible to everyday people. And now that programs like Adobe have switched to a subscription-based model, these complex editing programs became a lot more affordable and reached a whole new audience of aspiring editors. But in 2008, not so much. Most computers were really weak, and Adobe was expensive, and not to mention a lot more niche and underground. Really, the only people using these complex editing programs were people with powerful computers that could also afford good editing software, and also had good editing experience themselves. In other words, they were actual professionals, now using YouTube to broadcast their art worldwide. And that was quite rare online at the time. We are talking about a time where some of the biggest YouTubers on the platform were still using iMovie and Windows Movie Maker. To the everyday person, industry standard video editing was still just that, exclusive to, well, the film industry. It just wasn't something that seemed like would ever appear on YouTube. So maybe, just maybe, this ghost sighting video is real? This type of social phenomenon was so big on the internet that the television industry themselves capitalized on it. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, you have reality TV shows such as Destination Truth and Fact or Faked, where the cast would find paranormal videos that went viral on YouTube and use industry standard equipment to make a shot-for-shot remake and compare them, because people really didn't know if they were real. The internet has no bounds. And it was during this time where Username666 would continue introducing itself to many more people, inspiring them to add their own spin to it and therefore perpetuate the legend. The interactive elements that this story had could be seen as an early instance of what would become the famous ARG trend that would pop up in many horror circles, becoming one of the many new examples that were forming on the internet at this time that people would eventually look back to in retrospect. And all of this would be during a time where creepypasta stories were really starting to skyrocket, even creating their own pop culture icons, which would help informing the zeitgeist of online horror storytelling. Username666 would immortalize itself as one of these strange tales of old YouTube, and learning of its origins and the way it was socially engineered helps us in understanding not only internet culture, but also why trends like this either die or retransform, sometimes beyond recognition. There were things happening back then that now seem ridiculous, but once you understand the factors that were involved and what people were working with at the time, it all starts to make sense. And that's one of many things that keeps this story alive. So now, after a period of speculation and debate, I think it's time to finally put this matter to bed. That's what she said. Or he said. But what would it look like to experience Username666 in real time? Well, I say we should recreate that together. So this is probably what Username666 would have looked like if it were actually real. It is Monday, March 3rd, 2008. Yes, time traveling is one of my big hobbies outside of YouTube, but when I was playing Astro Golf with President Haley Joel Osment, I saw just how unfulfilled my future self was. I should have started YouTube earlier. So I did just that. Now, with all those extra years of making money and 20/20 hindsight investment decisions, I finally gathered enough money to buy a humble bungalow in Santa Monica. But enough about me. What happens to my YouTube channel if I go to youtube.com/666? Well, let's find out. As you can see, nothing special, just a suspended account. But let's go ahead and refresh the page. It's going to take quite a few attempts. It's almost biblical in a sense, because in Christianity you are given many chances to save yourself from the devil. Poetry in motion. Well, looks like I used up all my chances. Things are starting to get a bit more peculiar. "666. There goes my YouTube channel. Can't leave. 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 Can't leave.